Hey there, it's Jason Stein, host of Cars and Culture with Jason Stein on SiriusXM, as well as on this YouTube channel. We interview everybody, actors, athletes, musicians, business leaders. We talk to the people who lust for the vehicle and the people who make them. So like and subscribe. Let us know what you think right here on Cars and Culture.
There were some who were really writing Formula One off as a failure, that it was boring, that it didn't have any interesting drivers, that most races were very predictable. And 2 years later now, everything's changed. It's remarkable.
I think it's remarkable, and I think that we need to give the credit to Chase Carey, to Ross Brawn, to Greg, of course, as a vision to make that happen. And at that moment, I think that the strategy of Liberty was the right one. There was the need of a discontinuity to make sure that we were able to create the right foundation for a better future. And now we are building a business that is strong because there is attention to all the different elements of the business. If you think that on the sporting side, we were pushing through, of course, the FIA to have different cars with a different regulation to enable the drivers who represent our jewels, basically, to fight closer. And now you see that mission has been accomplished because the cars are really able to stay close together. They can offer great show, great fights on the track, I have to say, up to now. And that was one point that was really relevant, to bring back the passion on the track, to keep the enthusiasm there. Second point, budget cap. Budget cap was an incredible success because we were able, since the life of Formula One, to cap the technical expenditure in order to basically try to make sure that in the shorter term as possible, all the teams can really compete very closely. And we see that that is happening. Of course, the magnitude between the first and the second is still in certain places a little bit higher, but we are definitely sure that this gap will be shortened up in a quicker time. And by giving that, we gave the sustainability to the teams in terms of financials, because if you connect to the control of the cost with a high revenue that we're bringing in, directly and indirectly, I mean, that gives the landscape we are giving, that we are living today. And if you look on the other things, partnership and sponsorship, you never saw so many incredible brands of all the different categories investing in Formula One with us and also with the teams. So that means that financially, the teams can look ahead in a different position, a stronger position. Then, if you look at the way that we were able to connect with different narratives, with different categories, with different languages, with the different audiences, and open up the way to talk about Formula One with different way. I mean, that was another way to say that successfully we are very inclusive. And now the demand of talking about Formula One is not only through the avid fans, is also with people that get in touch with us since a short time, and they're really interested on certain subjects that maybe are not so technical, but in any case, they're talking about Formula One. And then there are promoters. Promoters means countries or government that really through Formula One wants to develop the platform. And we see that today, we never been in such a situation where we need to really decide where to go, because the request is so big that we really need to decide where to go. But it's a great opportunity because, we are pushing the right way in order to promote better the sport. And this is something that will happen and will give the chance to also let's say, with all respect, old-fashioned promoters to wake up and making sure that they do the better business. Otherwise, in this context, the worst will be left behind. And if I can say, cutting across transversally, we can really apply our new values to the systems, because we are very strong in our sustainability program that will involve all the teams, all the stakeholders, all the manufacturers, all the promoters. We are really pushing in order to make sure that, the community, in terms of diversity, in terms of helping, the less lucky community can be part of our program. So there's so many things that are important, and I would say are the key of the success we are living today.
Well, in Formula One for years, for decades, was exclusive, not inclusive. And then a little show came around that pulled the opened the curtains and pulled the ropes back, and it's called Drive to Survive. And it gave a global audience the opportunity to look behind the scenes, to see some of the stories, to realize the personalities, to talk about the struggling teams who were trying to make it, to talk about the successful teams who were fighting each other. And all of a sudden now, boom, the world knew more about Formula One, its drivers, and the demographic, to your point, Stefano, changed completely. You had 20-something women who wanted to know when the next race was going to be held. I mean, this is the one phenomena that you did not mention that I think has had an enormous impact, especially in America. You agree?
100%. I totally agree. And I think that I would have mentioned before in the way that we were able to cut the different narratives to different audience. That was the point. And that is, it helped tremendously, with no doubt about it. And as always, there are fathers of this project that belongs to Liberty. It was Sean Bratches that within Chase Carey pushed that project along. And at the beginning, we had some teams that were not really happy to be involved in that. Now it's the other way around, because they have understood the power of being able to get closer to a different community of fans. And that is true. We see that the magnitude of that is immense. You're right. I mean, US that opened up the way to see what is behind the scene. We have a problem, if I may say, that is our jewels or our heroes wear helmets, gloves, overall. They are in a car with a halo that is difficult to see even the eyes. And therefore, it was important to make sure that the people understood that behind that, there are boys so far, but will be also girls in the community already now, but even soon, hopefully with the driving on the driving overall, that are living an incredible life. And so it's really important to show what is really behind the scene, as you said. Therefore, I think that's the right way to make sure that we explain who we are and what is behind our, let's say, our official face, that sometimes for someone can be seen as a mask. It is not. But also, of course, behind you're discovering that there are thousands of people working to make sure that show of Formula One to be successful and great.
Yeah, we had Sean as a guest on this show, and he talked about the change in philosophy that occurred, and the fact that drivers could have a lot more independence, and they could have social media accounts, and they could really be out there from a marketing standpoint. And clearly, the accelerator has been pushed on that aspect of it. There is such a close connection now, the following, the allegiance to certain drivers globally. You're a Lewis guy, or you're a Max guy, or you're a Daniel guy. I mean, that has to be, as a marketer, that almost has to be the epitome of exactly what you want. The NFL has been successful at that. Other big leagues have done the same. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and I have to say, on that respect, the American market is teaching us a lot of things. Of course, American leagues or American sport have different philosophy, but at the end of the day, there has to be the attention to the human being, to the sport itself, and you need to learn from that in order to develop that also in other places, in other countries, where maybe the culture is following another direction, and this is another opportunity to develop also worldwide. And I think that is really the intention that we want to take. And therefore, that experience has been massively important for us in order to understand that there is a huge potential that through that has enabled us to get in touch with a lot of different people and a lot of different partners.
It's entertainment, right? We have to remember at the end of the day, this, sport is entertainment.
Sport is the biggest, I would say. We can see Formula One as the most incredible entertainment of the motorsport dimension. Yeah. It's a place where we have not only the technical challenge, the sporting challenge, but we need to run a show. We're in to run something where people need to have excitement. If you take away that passion in terms of dimension, forget it. It's a research and development. It's not anymore motorsport. That makes a difference. If a research and development, of course, you can be also very happy to do that, but it's not really what we are doing. It's part of the equation, of course, on that respect. But if you take away the emotion that the motorsport is given, is entertainment. And therefore, we need to focus. And this is what we are doing today. I mean, the events that we are organizing together with our promoters, it's for sure Formula One. It's for sure Formula 3 and Formula 2 that will belong to our pyramid of the growth of arriving in Formula 1. But there is events organized at the track where there will be music, there will be entertainment, there will be a fun zone when you can really be a live experience that has to be unique for everyone that is attending to come back again.
Somebody told me that the Miami Grand Prix this spring was a party that happened to have a race involved with it as a side event. Is that accurate?
I would say Miami was insane, to use the right word. I think with the American meaning, insane in terms of gigantic. Everyone wanted to be there. That's the place to be. That was the statement that everyone was saying that in that respect. But the beauty of that was an event that was not only the track around the Dolphin Stadium. It was an event that was basically was around the city, on Miami Beach, in all the restaurants, in all the places, in all the hotels, in the center of the city. There was something connected to that race. And to receive from the American community that event was bigger than Super Bowl, you can understand what does it mean.
Yeah.
For us, it's an incredible achievement and accomplishment that give us the dimension and the responsibility to make sure that the next one is even better, not only bigger, better. And that's really the way that we want to tackle not only the American market, but all the events that we are organizing so far.
Success for Formula One has always been elusive. I'm sitting in downtown Detroit, and in 1982, I was on the streets of Detroit when the Formula One cars were racing around, and it lasted a few years, but then ultimately faded out. I was also in Indianapolis when they tried at the Speedway there, and it didn't work. There's been other attempts at Watkins Glen. Why has Formula One not worked in the past?
Well, for, I would say, three main reasons, in my opinion. The first, we were not consistent in our communication and content throughout the year in US. So we were there for 3 years in the year for the event, and then switch off. So the light was off. So no content, no explanation, no continuity, no right partners, and no will to understand that was a must for us to grow. And on that, I think that we are doing that, and we see the success. Second, of course, the need of being present with a sport that is easy to understand and to explain. You know, we know that we say that with all respect, the American sport are quite exclusive to that market, and to come in is not easy. Therefore, there is the need of explaining who we are, what we are bringing in terms of sport value, in terms of technological value, but also in terms of entertainment level. And I think that we are doing that in the right way. Third, of course, investing with our partners in order to develop the sport, not only during the event, but also create festivals, create a moment of communication. And of course, I think that is, we cannot deny, Netflix gave the last boost together with our media partner, ESPN, that did an incredible job to take that responsibility in a period where you are right. I mean, 3 years ago, we were in Austin thinking, well, unfortunately, with not great numbers, and thinking, do we need to stay? Do we need to give up the American market? And now we have this year Grand Prix. Next year, we're going to have a 3 Grand Prix, and the interest in US is booming. So this, I think, is the equation that is taking us for a great success we're living today.
Has it even surprised you?
A surprise in terms of speed of achievement of this success, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting to be so quick, but it is what it is. And now we need to make sure that we take the advantage of it in order to manage this growth. Because as always, when there is this opportunity, you need to make sure that this opportunity is taken seriously, consistently, and with the right resources in the right dimension. So we don't have to make any kind of mistake in this moment, because the business that we can see growing there, and the awareness and the love of Formula One has to be managed in the proper way for the future.
I would say, first off, that the design, the creativity process for footwear and apparel is the same. compared to what I would see. I mean, the process you use, the type of that you would go to find ideas, so similar. I mean, people have asked me, wow, you're in Under Armour. How is that even compared to the automotive industry? It's like, well, the outcome is a different product, but the process is so similar because you're working with trends, customer insights, preferences, materials, you're creating a 3D item, you're doing prototyping. And so I would say it's rigorous in a couple of ways because you're looking for comfort, number one, which in a garment is different than riding in a car, right? Comfort in a car is very, very different than a shirt you wear or running shorts you wear. And for athletes, we're trying to build product that helps them to excel. You know, in Under Armour, we talk a lot about Under Armour makes you better, whether you're a golfer or swimmer or runner or a basketball player. We want to make sure we're creating product that unlocks your potential. Be very similar to, you know, a company like Porsche saying, we're going to unlock your ability to be a great driver because we're going to create a great vehicle and it's going to allow you to really express your talents on the track. We say that same thing. So because of that, we'll spend a lot of time in testing on our high performance product. We'll test a lot. We'll test with hundreds of athletes and we'll make sure that we're creating something that they don't get injured in because footwear especially is a big story. We're also testing around sustainability right now because sustainability in the apparel industry is a big deal. So in some places it's a lot more rigorous. In other places it's pretty fast.
And I'm sure as a car designer, you drove all kinds of vehicles in order to see what the lay of the land was. So are you wearing all kinds of different clothing now as a comparative set?
I think I always did. You know, I mean, it's funny.
I know you're a sneaker guy, but
I love sneakers. I think when we were moving from Michigan to here, you know, we lived in a house for 17 years and you think, oh man, I'm not a hoarder. I think I'm a collector, but where did all these shoes come from? Right? And so I think I probably had 300 pair of sneakers, you know, that I'd collected
300,
300, which is not a proud thing to talk about. But they were all very collectible items and they're very cool and designers love things, right? And designers collect a lot of things, whether it be books or bikes or sneakers or watches. But I've always been intrigued by design of things. And so that was the one thing that has been always around me. And so I've always kind of bought things. I always kind of have kind of tried to be athletic in my career and try to work out and run and bike. And so I've always been exposed to the products in the industry. But today, me and several other folks inside of the company, we do a lot of running. It's an area that we're expanding our company to really grow big in. And so I spend a lot of time buying other product and running in lots of product just so I can understand it and have kind of an empathetic ear to what it is as we go forward and we work with our team. So you're always intrigued by somebody else who's done something better. We're benchmarking a lot in our we call our testing center is called the Proving Grounds. And we tear things apart, just like General Motors years ago used to have a place we called the Mona Lisa, if you remember. Mm-hmm. And tear down cars, you look at things, cut cars in half, try to understand, you know, the best practices that might be around the world. We do the same thing here. So we will tear shoes apart, we will tear apparel apart, we'll test the snot out of it to try to understand who's the best in the benchmarking and then do our best to be better in every instance.
Well, in fact, it should be noted, going back to the sneaker side of the world, that your H3T design concept was actually fitted with tires that had tread patterns inspired by Nike shoes.
That is true. It was actually designed with Nike as a partner. Wow. And so, you know, if you really digest every part of a car, you can get deep into the woods. And when we look at tires, I mean, think about tires and their design element of a tire. Think of the first Goodyear Gatorback. You remember that whole design that was very, very unique in its design. The Yokohama A008, you know, which was almost like a balled outer surface with some depth holes and the tread was on the inside. Tires can have a very distinctive personality that speaks to people. All-terrain TAs, mud TAs. We had, when we were doing the Hummer, we were doing all sorts of things. And we said, you know, off-road tires could really be a place we could dive into and really do something elaborate, because hiking shoes they call out color, they call out patterns and capabilities. And we thought, wouldn't that be a fun place to kind of dive deep and explore? I wonder if BFG would be interested in doing that. And they were. And then when we talked to Nike, had good friends there, they said, that'd be a fun project. Let's go in on it. And it led to other things inside the vehicle. And it was actually very fun. We had Nike designers in the Hummer studio. We had Hummer designers in the Nike studios. And was a great learning experience to see what details stood out to teams and what could we learn from each other.
Let's talk about that benchmarking. How are the data sets that you use to determine Under Armour products different than automotive data?
Well, that's a good question. Big differences, right? Depending on the type of product you're designing. We'll spend a lot of time, for instance, in footwear. We will spend a lot of time on underfoot cushioning. Fit and comfort are big stories. Depending on the product that you're designing, you have different dynamics, different metrics. So for instance, in a running shoe, you're looking at, and there's trends that are happening all the time, just the same way there are trends happening in the automotive space where movements to SUVs or fastback SUVs or movements to upright front ends on trucks. In footwear, there's the same type of trends that are happening. And for running shoes, for instance, we will define cushioning, what it feels like to underfoot cushioning. Does it feel soft and comfortable? But at the same time, you need to counter that with energy coming out of it. So does it propel me? Does it move forward? There's racing in the running space. You think of athletes at the Olympics. And so we will spend time, we have several Olympic runners that are on Under Armour's team. We work very, very closely with them, designing product to help them actually run faster. And so we will measure energy we'll measure oxygen uptake, what the runners are running in, so we can understand, is this really helping them with their energy moving forward? So it's different metrics. We will look at softness. Think about, people talk a lot about hand touch with leathers or other fabrics. That's a very subjective place to be. You might touch an Alcantara steering wheel and say it has something. We talk hand feel, right? So we've been spending a lot of time digitizing what hand feel really means, so it becomes predictable over a longer period of time. And so, because you want to have fabrics that are soft to the touch, very comfortable, very inviting, they feel rich and luxurious. Whether it's a shirt you're working out in the gym or something that you're just going to wear every day casually, there's a feel that you want it to have because it looks a certain way. Well, we'll also look at, we have a lot of metrics that get into how does it draw moisture away from your skin to create a comfort environment? How does it create environments, microenvironments next to skin to the apparel? So we have several areas that we measure and spend a lot of time with that are constantly moving and changing based on how technology is allowing us to move forward with fibers. Within our team, we've got a pre-textile team that essentially is working with biopolymers and polymers and yarn-based and fiber-based stories to create the materials we use. So it's a deeper space to be in than the world that I came from.
It's a little different than just thinking about my old white t-shirt, right?
Hopefully you're enjoying Cars and Culture with Jason Stein. Like and subscribe to see more and enjoy the rest of this interview.
It is, but it's funny. Sometimes I got a drawer of old white t-shirts and it's just nice. For all the nice ones I've got, it's like, man, I just like this old beefy tee.
Right.
Pretty good. Right? Depends on the moment.
With a lot less technology in it. But
Yes.
Speaking of technology, and you just referenced this, the Mach 39, right, gave American speed skaters hopefully an advantage. And in fact, what you were looking to do, you have said, is to get the body to be more aerodynamic than in its natural state. That's pretty high sci-fi stuff here, Clay.
It is. And what's even cooler about those speed skating suits, and we're getting ready to work on the next generation for the next Olympics. Think about how a skater skates most of the time. So when you think about apparel, you kind of tailor it and design it to look a certain way, right? But if you look at how a speed skater is functioning 85% of the time, he's leaned forward, crouched down, and bent to the left. And if we design that speed suit standing straight up normally, that when he got down into that space, he would feel awkward. So the suit was designed and tailored not only to make him more aerodynamic and to reduce friction inside next to skin, but it was designed to be the most comfortable when he was leaned forward, leaned to the left, and down and crouched. That was the most comfortable space for the uniform. So when he stood up normally, it was not comfortable. They almost felt like they were in how when you sit down and your suit becomes very relaxed and kind of crumply and strange, or it becomes very scrunched and you feel uncomfortable, but when you stand up, the drapes is fine. We were the exact opposite. And so it was a paradigm shift of how you would design a suit for speed skaters. Very exciting. And it just forced you to think differently And because it does unlock their capabilities, and all of our skaters, majority of them set PRs in those suits, so they were faster with the suit than previous suits.
Well, and one of your athletes, whom you worked with and on the innovation and design team, just won an NBA title again, and Curry Flow 8, which was conceived out of a desire to really give athletes like Steph Curry peak performance, competitive mindset, things of that nature. What have you learned through your relationship with Steph Curry?
That's a good question. He's an amazing guy to work with, by the way. Super personable. What you see on TV is real. He's that genuinely nice of a gentleman, a guy. Look, we sat down with him when we first started that project, and we said, "Tell us what you need. You know, how do you play? What are the things you're hunting for?" And he had a phrase that he says, "It's all about the squeak." And we said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "You think about basketball shoes on court, they squeak, 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 squeak." And so his entire career, he had played, and you kind of know where you're at based where the squeaks are going. And I said, "Well, you know that squeaking is losing, don't you?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" And he's a big car guy. He's had GT3s and Audi, A8, R8s. And I says, "Well, what is it when a tire is spinning and making noise? What's going on?" He says, "Well, it's just not going anywhere." "Well, that's what your sneakers are doing. You're sliding." So squeaking is sliding. Because he told us another thing. He said, "If you guys just give me a second, just give me 1 second on the court that he's in control, then I can get a shot off. Because usually I can stop faster or accelerate quicker, and the other guy will fly past me." And if you watched, and there's so many instances when that exactly happened. And so the solution that we came up with, working with some great partners, was a sneaker that had no rubber anymore in the bottom. And it was a great concoction of lots of materials that all of a sudden it had a stick that was never mind. We initially were designing this for a running shoe. And then when we kind of ended up on a basketball court, it's like, holy crap, what is this doing? Are we focused in the right place? And when we gave it to him the first time, after he told us what he was hunting for, his eyes got huge. Because not only was it sticky and had great appearance, it was quiet. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Oh, I'd be like a ninja. No one would hear me coming." And every solution since, so that was the Curry 8. We're now working on the Curry 12 internally in the innovation team and continuing to advance the story. And he's hungry for new developments. For him, it's extending his career. And he says, "I'll be 34 and flying." When we did these shoes, he said, "I'm going to be 34 and flying." And sure enough, he is. And 4 times.
Oh, he's flying.
He is flying.
And he's not squeaking.
No, he's not squeaking. So
you've eliminated the squeak in basketball shoes. I mean, this is revolutionary.
It's pretty cool. And look, the last big, there are probably, you can kind of walk back like in any industry and find these pivotal moments when innovation kind of moved forward. And Chuck Taylor was when rubber was put on a shoe back in 1927, and probably when Air showed up in the 80s with kind of crosstown rivals. And now this one, it's a pivotal movement. And what's great is we have players in the NBA playing in these shoes now that they're not Under Armour athletes. They just want to play in the shoe because it's a great performing product.
It's amazing in many ways. You're working on wearable data delivery devices to help athletes, whether they're professional or not professionals, right? Is that something you see transferring to automobiles in the near future?
Sure. I think when I was back in the automotive space, especially if we think about autonomous vehicles in the future, that if we believe that autonomous taxis are going to be a big story, who's monitoring what's going on inside the vehicle with people? What's happening? Are they in a health challenge or an issue, or where things are at? We can monitor what's going on. Digital data is very valuable because it's how you can serve the customer and be able to create a better product or a better experience overall. And so a lot of our data that we used in the footwear space is meant to create a better product in the future. How can I create a better shoe? We've had connected footwear for since I think 2015 here, where it literally can coach you and monitors your run, your speed, your distance, foot position, ground contact, and allows us to kind of understand how are you running, can give you some tips on how to run better, more efficiently, and coach you. And help you to enjoy the experience of running better. But we can also take that and then also tell you when your shoe's about worn out, right? Everything has a lifespan of when it's kind of done. And we can help to alert you when you need to get another pair of shoes. Very much like in-vehicle health monitor that a lot of cars have today. It'll tell you if something's going to fail before it fails, or if you need some type of service. So I see the future inside of connected apparel and connected footwear. Clearly, we'll continue to develop there. It's nascent. It's not full tilt. It's still a little bit clunky because of the technologies that are here. But at some point, it will be a story.
So you mentioned earlier working ahead 5, 6, 7 years on advanced design at General Motors. How many years do you work ahead in the clothing industry?
Great question. It's different. Believe it or not, it takes almost 2 years to design a shoe.
Really?
So you start from ground zero with first, that's just an inline shoe. And part of it's how we sell and how you ship and where things are managed and the go-to-market process. We try to be, we'll look at things in tranches of, say, 2 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 10. If you're getting into fibers and new polymer development for materials, you're kind of out there in a certain way. We're working on some stories. And sometimes it just takes time to mature something. You have to manufacture it a new way. We've got some footwear stories right now in the cleated space that would essentially necessitate a complete reimagining of how you build product. So there's not an existing manufacturing process for it. So you're gonna have to go and actually create the manufacturing process to do the shoes you're actually doing. That one, it might be 3 years out or so, but on the average, since the inline model is probably 2 years out, we're 2 to 3 and beyond is where we stand in this space.
Resonating with an audience, I think just since day one, I've been very authentic to who I am. And I try to be very genuine, but also relatable. I mean, I think it's a trip for me to hear that I'm one of the leading female in the automotive space, because it's me. I'm just going to the garage and working on cars, and I get to do what I love every day. And I think people see that passion that I have and that drive, and they see that I'm constantly, trying to one up myself and what I did last time, and constantly trying to push the boundaries. And, as some people would say, breaking through that glass ceiling, and really trying to show, the audience that I'm a big believer in, if you just work hard for something, you can achieve your goals. And that, luck is actually when hard work meets opportunity, and, putting in 10,000 hours to be an expert and all of that. I'm such a proponent of hard work and, putting those blinders on and just going after whatever it is that you want. And then I talk about that too. And I talk a lot about mental health, and I really try to just, life's hard. And I want to try to provide 20 minutes a couple times a week to have people smile and be involved in this greater family, which now I joke and I say E-crew because it's the Emelia crew now.
I'm going to say, you've taken the B to the E, right?
Yeah, I have. And yeah, I really, more than anything, just want to try to create this family, this supportive family online where people can talk about their builds and watch a build and be involved in it. About 3-4 weeks ago, I was able to surprise my mom with her dream car. And
I saw that.
And then in the video, I stopped and I was joking, like, today's video is sponsored by, and I was like, you guys at home. Because without you watching, I wouldn't be in this position that I am today. And I'm so incredibly grateful and thankful of everyone who watches.
What did that mean to you, the ability to be able to do that? It had to be everything, given the pathway that you've been on.
I started crying before even giving my mom the key, and she had no idea. She's like, what are you doing? Why are you crying right now? And she doesn't see me cry. Like, I'm a very non-emotional person most of the time. And it meant so much to me. My dream has always been just to, take care of her. So to be able to do that and put her up in a car, all she kept saying was, I never would have been able to afford the salary. And I was just like, I'm so incredibly happy that I'm able to do something for her, that she deserves, that she couldn't do for herself.
Tell the audience about the car that you bought her and why.
My mom's always wanted a Toyota RAV4, so I bought her a brand new one. I made sure she had the heated steering wheel because her hands get cold. Mine do too. Thanks, Mom. And the weather pack, and it's all-wheel drive hybrid because she lives in the snow and she wants to be conservative on gas and whatnot. So yeah, I even found it in her favorite color. I recommend everyone watch the video, but a little bit of a spoiler: I had my brother take her out and go test drive a car.
That's right. She thought that it was just a normal test drive until you dropped the keys on her.
Yeah, I was like, hey, remember that car that you test drove a couple months ago? Well, it's outside. But yeah.
Amazing. Let's talk about the eCrew family.
Okay.
What do young women say to you when they reach out to you? I got to imagine it's an enormous outpouring of support that you get, and questions, and how can I do what you're doing, and you're a role model for me. I'm sure it's all the above, right?
Yeah, and it's more than just women too. I'm very it'll always be a weird thing for me to hear that I inspire people and to do more, but I'll always be humbled by that. Um,
Yeah.
Speechless is probably the word, 'cause I never thought that I would be in this position.
What's been the most surprising element, I guess, of creating the channel and the following that has swirled around you? What surprised you the most?
How many people genuinely, I guess, care about me, you know? Because like there was one point where I was in such a dark time in life, and like I had the friends that were close to me, but never like I just have this incredible fan base that is so supportive and knows me honestly sometimes better than I even know myself. Um, and to be able to be an inspiration to people and have people reach out to me and tell me that, um, you know, their significant other was in the hospital in order to get through that pain. They were watching my videos. It's it really is unbelievable. It leaves me speechless a lot sometimes.
Wonderful. Let's talk about the acting side of it. You've had the chance to be in the Netflix series Fastest Car
Yeah.
as a drifter and not a drag racer. What was that like?
That was an unbelievable opportunity, and I am so thankful of everyone in that crew and the other fellow drivers that I got to do my episode with, and it was such a welcoming experience, and for them to be interested in me telling my story and going out there, and that is definitely what inspired me to start getting more into drag racing. I had my LSS 14, and someone had connected me to do this show, and I mean, let's be honest, at the time it was a stock bottom end LS, and we had my friends and I had thrown on heads in a cam like 2 nights before to try to hope that I would stand a chance against like these 1,000 horsepower cars. And I was stoked that like I was able to get the jump off the line. I was the quickest off the line, but then after that, it was no surprise that I had just gotten taken. But everyone was awesome to work with, and I realized that maybe the drift car wasn't the best car to turn into a drag car. That's actually what inspired the '79 Buick Regal build. That was my grandma's car, and brought that back to life, and that was the drag car until I eventually picked up the C8, and I've just kind of gone down this rabbit hole of drag racing since.
And the C8, it had to be an incredible feeling at the
Oh
time,
yeah.
breaking the record, right?
When I bought that car, there's video of it somewhere. I said I was going to leave it stock. I never I believed it when I said it too, that I wasn't going to modify this car, and I bought it as a customer. 2 years ago I was calling dealerships trying to just get my name on the wait list for one, and I had no idea, Chevrolet had no idea what I was going to do with this car. I know they believed in me from the beginning, but it was very unreal. And when I bought that car initially, um, I drove straight from Kentucky to the West Coast and ended up stopping in Texas on the way to put a nitrous bottle on the car, go to the drag strip to
Wow.
see if we could break what was the record at the time, which was actually really tangible because I'd gotten one of the first cars in America. Um, and we didn't break the record. We were like a few tenths of a second off, but I just got hooked. And I was like, all right, what are we doing next? We're going to twin turbo this car. We're going to try to figure out a tuning solution. And we're going to go out there. We're going to keep pushing. And we ended down this rabbit hole of C8 Corvette and constantly trying to push the boundaries of this car with an encrypted ECU that you can't tune, and trying to, find ways to trick the sensors and make the car happy. And yeah, I got a lot of people were stoked I actually kept the car because a lot of YouTubers ended up and builders in general ended up selling the car because it was locked. So I know I stuck with it. It's one of my favorite cars today, and and we're still working on going back out there. Recently, the record, I had held the record for about 6 months. Someone recently had taken that from me, and I'm stoked for it because I was like, man, it's fun when there's friendly competition. I don't see this as cutthroat. We're behind the scenes. We're all helping one another. Like, oh, you did this. Well, we did this. And some people find different tuning solutions that work for them. And we're constantly in the background trying to help one another. So when someone else breaks the record, it's like awesome because now we know that the platform's even more capable than what we thought it was, which only continues to push and drive us to try to get better and do better.
The automotive world in that space is such an evolutionary thing, right? You never stop learning what you can do to these products. And I'm guessing that's something you didn't anticipate when you first got into it.
Not at all. And a lot of people tell me they're surprised, will say that I know so much about cars that I do, but I don't feel like I know that much because there's so much out there. Every day I'm learning new
So much
things.
to learn.
There's so much to learn. It's, and I think that's why I've stuck with cars as long as I have, because if I'm not learning, constantly learning, I get bored of things. And there's never been a day where I'm not learning something when I'm working on a car.
Let's talk about the content creation for the channel and a little bit on that. How do you decide? And a lot of YouTubers are very strategic on which cars they buy because they want the most clicks and they have good ROI and things of that nature. How do you decide how you build your content?
I would be lying if I didn't say, back in my mind, I was thinking about whether or not a car would do well.
Sure.
But I think
Natural.
More importantly, you have to be passionate about the car. Because if you buy a car and you're just building it to build it because you think it'll do well, people see through that. You have to find that balance of something that the audience is going to, be excited about just as much as you're going to be excited to work on it. And I mean, let's be honest, like it's going to take hours and hours and so much of your time to build these cars. You got to find something that you love. So if the question was, how do I find it? For me, I'm constantly looking to what I can push the boundaries in. And at the time that was a C8, recently picking up the Mustang. I'm hoping to be doing more with that. I just got the new Bronco in. That was a car I didn't mention.
That's fun.
That I also have. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's funny that now I have a couple Fords, but I'm just waiting for my Z06 allocation to come in so I can start focusing on that. But yeah, I'm just constantly trying to find something that is new territory because that's what I love the most about the C8 was I was calling the dealership saying, hey, how do I pull this motor? And they're like, we don't know. We haven't done it before, but we'll print you our service guide on how to do it. And that was fun because it was getting to share something with the world that people hadn't gotten the opportunity to see it. And I'm also learning while I'm doing it.
You have a great relationship with General Motors. You just mentioned it, and I've talked to several GM executives who are very excited about you being affiliated with their brand. Are you getting a lot of inputs from other car companies right now as well?
Inputs how?
In terms of wanting you to work on their vehicles.
Oh, I mean, totally. And I
imagine it feeds on itself here.
It does. I feel like everyone is just super excited to see what I do with everything. I'm sorry, the alarm was just going off in my house. It's good now. Yeah, I mean, I definitely I have an incredible relationship with most every OEM. And what I'm really most appreciative of is that they treat me as an equal and they see what I'm doing and everyone is so happy about it because at the end of the day, not just me, but everyone who's working on these cars is helping to keep this industry alive at such a pivotal time. And yeah, I mean, from General Motors was really the start, but I have incredible relationships with almost every OEM and yeah, I think at the end of the day, regardless of whose car I'm working on, people it feels weird, but people want to see me succeed and be happy, and I'm so incredibly thankful for that. And the automotive industry, because it's just a bunch of people who love what they're doing and they want to see it live.
Yeah, there's passion and excitement there for sure. What do you think you've learned about the automotive business that you didn't anticipate?
Every year that, and the answer to that question is going to change, right? So, mm-hmm. 10 years ago, maybe, I mean, a little more now, I'm starting to, time flies. I didn't expect such a supportive industry. Everyone is family to me. And I know that, it's the generic, oh yeah, go to space for family. But sorry, Fast and Furious reference there.
Yeah, right. Another Fast and Furious reference.
But if the question is what did I learn? I learned that it's an industry that is very supportive, that people just want to see others succeed in, which was, at the very, very beginning, it was challenging, and I don't want to pull the email card at all. But, there was a period where I almost had to prove myself before I could earn that respect from others. Whereas, a male counterpart would, start based with people assuming they know what they're talking about and they could build from there. And over the course of this past decade, I've seen the industry shift so much in such a positive way that makes me so excited, because at the end of the day, the car doesn't know what gender is behind the wheel. They don't know who's working on it. And I try to see I don't push being a female. I want to be treated as an equal, and I want to provide equal opportunities for everyone. And that's definitely the shift I've seen.
Hopefully you enjoyed this interview on Cars and Culture with Jason Stein. Like and subscribe. Come back and see more interviews with actors, athletes, musicians, business leaders. It's all right here on Cars and Culture.